One of the age-old questions in gardening is, how do I know my garlic's ready? And it's right up there when how do you know if a watermelon is ripe or not? It's not an easy thing. It's not like a bell pepper that you can tell when it's red or green. So in my hand, I'm holding 3 of our Siskiyou Purple. It's a softneck artichoke type garlic that I just pulled up. And they represent the 3 phases of maturity. Today's June 13th. Our garlic's ready earlier than ever. Normally we begin harvesting at the end of June here, and I've been doing it 30 years here. Everyone I know who's a really good garlic grower is pulling theirs right now. And so what I look for, as an example, is a minimum of 5 green leaves. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one's beginning to dry down. These inner ones don't count. And so if you didn't know this about garlic, holding it up here, see, these used to be leaves. This dry stuff here, they're drying down. This one's in the process of drying down. If you follow this down, that one's just all dry. See, if I begin pulling this off, see, that was a wrapper around it. This particular head, I think it's because we're watering it, or maybe a slug was messing with it, is it almost looking a little over mature. See, as I pull that one off, it's already kind of rotten, but you can see this space here and here where the bulb is not completely wrapped. And why you want a minimum of 5 green leaves is each leaf is a bulb wrapper, and that protects the cloves inside from drying out. So typically, once you harvest it and then dry it, or some of these outer ones you're going to clean off to clean up your garlic, you know, you trim the roots and all that, you want to wind up with 2 intact wrappers after you're cleaning it. So you can see this one has, you know, those openings there. Here's another example of one. I don't think this one's done growing. See how it looks very spherical? And see how the leaves are very green. If I were to count the leaves, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one's beginning to dry down. But my hunch is this isn't done dividing on the inside. If you want some garlic to eat, that's fine. See how it just looks like a sphere? You can't see the bumpiness of the cloves. So that shows me it should stay in the ground a little longer. This one seems just about perfect to me. And if I count my leaves, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one I'm going to count as dry because see how it's yellow. This one's totally dry. The bulb itself looks nice. It's got that purple color. It's all wrapped. And so this is a soft neck type. And I think probably in the next week we're going to harvest all our soft necks. You want to avoid watering it. Sometimes it's tricky if you have things next to your garlic that you need to water, and we're often in that circumstance. But ideally you stop watering it, because what can happen with watering, and this one even has it as I started to clean it, see how this clove's separated? It'll pop open a bit and it affects the storage quality. Right here where I'm standing, we've harvested some garlic. You can see these empty spaces. We harvested some early hardneck varieties. We had Chesnock, red, we also had Kishlik, and we also had another one called Jupiter that we've already pulled out, and one more called Inaris. Those are all hardnecks, but they were ready. This one here is a porcelain type called Music. Over there we've got German white. I'm going to dig one up just for science to show you. And when you're using a digging fork is generally preferable to a shovel. You have to imagine the bulb is sticking out a little bit. So I'm not going to go here because I would pierce the bulb. I'm going to come back a couple inches and then just get underneath it and lift it. I just watered this area to make it, well, for one, I just needed to water something that was next to it. Ideally with the garlic, I wouldn't have watered it. See how beautiful that looks? And you can see the bumpiness that I wasn't seeing in that other one, the individual cloves. So this one here, if I were to count the green leaves, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's close. We're supposed to have some weather hitting over 100 degrees soon, so I think all this is going to dry down fast. But there's no rush on this. I'm not seeing any damage. Another thing you want to look for, and here actually is some evidence of it. If I can clean it up. See that little hole right there? That's the result of a pest at the larval stage called wireworms or click beetles. So they burrow into it and they damage it. So, I mean, it's fine for eating, but we're going for top quality for other people to plant for seed. So if you're seeing a lot of wireworm damage, you might want to harvest sooner than later. And if you're familiar with the insect, the click beetle, it's a little blackish brown shiny insect that when you touch it, it can reflex its body parts and literally jump, and that's why, and it makes an audible clicking sound. So here I'd say a week or so. For us, pretty much we've never had garlic. We've always got it all by July 4th here. And one thing you'll notice on this German white too, being a hardneck, you can see this inner round scape. See, the leaves are flat like a leek or something, but this is round. This is a false flower stalk called a scape. We'll probably see one in here if we look, but basically we break off the scapes when they coil like a pigtail, and we use them for food. But you want to break those off because the plant is directing energy into producing the scape, which isn't a true flower. When it looks like a little flower bud and it opens up and it makes what are called bulbils. They're like rice grain size garlics that you could grow garlic from, but it would take 2 years, which is kind of a long time. So we wait till they coil and then snap them off, and I believe they make for bigger garlic. Let's come down here and we'll look at another variety. I just thought I'd point out, here's a scape that got broken off, and you can see this is the false flower bud. Garlic only makes true flowers about 1% of the time, so that's a slow way to grow garlic. So down here, I have another variety. This one is more of the kishlik that escaped being harvested the other day, and you can see here's a plant with the garlic scape still attached. And if you leave the scapes on, eventually they'll straighten out and grow up straight and become very woody, and then they'll open up. Some people say that for the longest storing hardnecks, you want to leave the scapes attached. But from what I've seen is the bulb size usually suffers when you do that. So let's look here for some other signs. You know, like here's just an example of, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green leaves. The next leaf is drying. So let's pull this and see what it looks like, because we dug up the rest of this variety the other day. We just didn't get around to this one. And one thing I always do is I clean the dirt off in the field when it's moist, because it's much easier to trim the roots off. If you leave that dirt on there, and if you have a clay soil like we do, it'll be really hard to cut the roots off later. And then you're just transporting dirt, which doesn't make sense to me. So that one looks pretty darn close. You know, it's on the early side a little bit, but ready to harvest. And then what we do is we'll bunch the garlic. We'll edit in a picture of how we hang it, but we'll put like 10 or 12 of these together with some baling twine and then hang it up in a shed. You can also just lay it on a floor of a garage or a barn or something like that, a shed, where there's good airflow. You don't really want it in the sun. You want a shady spot. Some people will even make these racks out of wood like this. If my fingers were slats of wood, and they'll put it all in there. That seems somewhat labor intensive to me. But then you let it dry until the tops are dry. If you have soft necks, you can braid it while it's maybe half dry. These, because they have this rigid stalk, that's why they call them hard necks. Once they're dry, it's really difficult to braid them, so nobody really braids hard necks. And while we're talking garlic, this is actually a cousin of garlic. This is elephant garlic. And if you look at the two next to one another, you can really see the differences. They're related, but elephant garlic is truly botanically a leek. If you let it flower, then it would cross-pollinate with leeks. And that's why it has a very mild flavor, not the true garlic flavor. These ones are still out here growing. We'll probably harvest these closer to the end of the month and let them size up a little bit more in the field. I'm not the biggest fan of elephant garlic, but some people are. Mainly, it's probably just because I think that it probably doesn't have the medicinal value. Here's some of the flower stalks we broke off. You can see where it broke off and see how they look pretty different than the scapes. And that's one of the clues that this is, elephant garlic isn't a true garlic, it's a leek. So grow it to your heart's content if you want. Like for roasting, they're incredible. If you're unfamiliar with it, they'll get huge, like the size of an onion. And we grow it mainly just to have a diversity. A lot of people, I think part of the reason we grow things is to learn about the diversity of what's out there. Like this variety I'm harvesting here, kishlik, is from Uzbekistan and is incredibly spicy, twice as spicy as a softneck. So that means you use less garlic, but it might be overpowering in a pesto. So learning the different varieties, just like different varieties of peppers or tomatoes, have different purposes and we have different preferences. So that's why I always encourage people to grow at least one hardneck and a softneck, because the hardnecks are much easier to clean after you've dried it and much easier to use in the kitchen. Like the Music and the German white we were looking at only have about 5 or 6 cloves per bulb, but they don't store as long. And also your multiplication when you're planting is not as much as a softneck, which might have 10 or 12 cloves per bulb, but it stores longer. But in trade-off for that storage is that it's more work to peel for smaller cloves. So having both is good. Use your hardnecks first, and then leave your softnecks to ripen up more, store and have them later in the season. So that's about it for garlic. And one last bit here, you can see these beds where I just tilled under the mulch and debris. I'm going to that's why I irrigated. I wanted weeds to sprout. And then I'll broadcast buckwheat. And we sell buckwheat cover crop. And buckwheat is a warm season cover crop. Like it'll frost if you are trying to grow it when frost is still happening. And it grows about 30 inches tall, produces an abundance of white flowers that attract bumblebees and other pollinators. And you're also, producing organic matter, covering your soil. And importantly, you're providing nectar and pollen for pollinators. A field of buckwheat is just a buzz with all types of bees, both honeybees and our native bees. So that's one of the things I see in stewardship, is that you are planting not just for yourself, but for the whole of nature. And then all those pollinators are supporting your whole garden ecology. And you're improving your soil and covering your soil. So thinking about that, if you need that bed space, like here we are, it's June 13th. I could use these for planting a later wave of beans, or even, I think there's still time to even plant winter squash. So you can do that, but just you'd probably want to put some more compost or fertility in. So we'll probably do most of it into buckwheat, a little bit into phacelia if you're interested in summer cover crops. That's another fun one to play with. It's called Bee's Friend. So yeah, don't leave that soil bare get it planted as soon as you can. So hopefully that helps and you have an awesome garlic harvest, or maybe this inspired you to plant some garlic this fall. We always plant right about October 1st. I'd say the month of October here in Oregon, and I would say that would apply from anywhere like 35 degrees north latitude up. I know in the Northeast they wait till the spring because it's just too cold for garlic to make it through the winter. So maybe that inspired you to grow garlic. Garlic is really expensive to buy, but once you figure out a few tricks, it's not that hard to grow. We have a few other videos about planting garlic that we'll link here, and you can do that. And we have about 20 varieties of garlics that we curate and sell. So check it out, share this with your friends, and keep on growing.